Totally independent. Fiercely pursuing accountability on policy and implementation. It's time for another DJ Elf 7 candidate interview.
Hey, what's up? It's your boy DJ Elf 7. As you know, we're interviewing every candidate running for Senate, right, House of Representatives in this particular cycle. And we have one of the candidates from New York here. I'm quite excited to meet him. I'm going to let him introduce himself, though. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, DJ, for having me on this important interview. And I very much appreciate the time and the opportunity. My name is Moses Mugulusi from New York, a Democrat, progressive, and a candidate for U.S. Senate. I'm running to win this race and represent the people of New York and Washington, strongly advocate for the things we need in New York, not just going to Washington and just put my name on bills that I was part of sponsoring a bill. I'm going to Washington to strongly advocate for those things.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you some questions just to get to know you a little bit better. So different people have different backgrounds. I did look you up, right, but I do want to share your background with my audience. So what's your experience? What gives you the what perspective are you approaching this race with, and with your governance with?
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I strongly believe I am very capable of representing the people of New York. I spent many years in public works. I spent several years auditing Medicaid programs. And when I was doing that work, I had an opportunity to go to so many different parts of New York State. Because if you're auditing Medicaid programs, basically you got to go to hospitals, which are all over the state of New York. You got to go nursing homes. They're all over. Today may be down Wall Street. Then the other time you find me down in Cattaraugus. You find me down in Syracuse. You got to go to, I went to all those providers. And that gave me a good understanding of the state of New York. Then finally, I worked as a financial regulator, regulating financial institutions to make sure they do their businesses as per the regulations. As a financial regulator, I also had an opportunity to go to so many different parts of US. Because like if I'm looking at a bank, basically I go to the banker's headquarters. So whatever the bank headquarters is, if like I'm looking at the books for Google, I'm gonna go to California because Google also moves funds.
You know, actually, someone with your background is actually particularly interesting, because I would say that there's a huge amount of people, I would say actually a huge majority of people feel like our government's corrupt and there's problems, and someone who's known for being a regulator, right, would be very attractive. Now, with your, maybe you could expound that a little bit more, right? Because people hear that you were a regulator, but they don't know, like, were you an effective regulator, or just maybe a little bit more just to let people know. Because honestly, I think a regulator could be, right, as that title alone, just I think about how corrupt New York State is. I'm like, wow, we kind of could use a regulator. But
yeah, sure.
You know, why are you a good regulator?
Okay, yes, as a financial regulator, basically, because there are rules governing financial institutions, like a discrimination. So basically, as a regulator, you are looking at the businesses of those financial institutions. For
Right.
instance, I could go to a bank and I ask you for their records regarding the mortgages. I could ask you for records for 2 years to look at the mortgage applications. Look at the mortgage applications, see how many mortgages were given out, and to what type of people were given those mortgages to. What were the rates? Is the bank charging same rate of people with the same financial situation? Are they being charged the same rate? Or you find some men are given a different rate and women are given different rates. What is the point? What is the basis of coming up with the two rates? If these are two people with the same credit score, the same income, Why are they given different rates? So we make sure there isn't discrimination when it comes to gender, when it comes to race. When it comes to business loans, we are looking at your loans, the loans you gave out for businesses. What type of businesses are you lending in? Are you also lending to minority businesses?
That makes sense. So when you're governing, right, you would look for discrepancies. That's actually good for a series of questions that I do have coming up very shortly. Before I get into that, I'm just going to ask, you've done quite a bit. Actually, I saw that you came to this country, I think, with $15 in your pocket, and then you really kind of made good on yourself, which was, I looked that up, which was pretty cool. What are you most proud of accomplishing? Like, not as in terms of like family or anything like that, but as in terms of directly related towards governance. What's your biggest accomplishment?
Okay, I think what I would say my biggest accomplishment is to serve in public service for all those many years. So I was able to when I got here, I was able to get back. I did those jobs like working in a factory. I worked in a factory, pushing boxes. From there, I worked in some retail stores. Eventually, I was able to go back to school, got my first degree, and after that, I went back and got a second degree, master's in finance. So my accomplishment may be the attainment of my education and serving the people of New York in quite a number of years. And if sometime back when Ebola came, New York was calling on, because the first case was, I think, if I remember correctly, in Texas. So New York went into a high mode because they wanted to protect New Yorkers from catching the Ebola. So they were looking for people to volunteer to help in the command center. Command center was set up in JFK. I was among the people who were there monitoring all the flights coming to US to monitor who is from where. So that was, I think, it was a good service. It is an accomplishment. Then when the pandemic was here, COVID-19, they were also looking for people to help out to scheduling people to do the tests. Because remember in the beginning, testing facilities were not available, but at a certain point, New York State had a few. So they wanted to start getting through the people to come and do the tests. I was among those people who actually signed up to schedule, to screen people who are looking to have those tests done. So I would say those are some of the achievements I could count on, serving the people, being able to serve.
Certainly. Appreciate that. Yeah. Now, the thing is, I do have some other questions for you, but you'd like to put I have a number of political, allies that I work with, and I want to make sure that I attend to their things first. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, do you know who Julian Assange is?
Yeah, Julia, yes,
Okay.
Assange, yes, I know him.
Would you support freeing Assange?
Yeah, I think because first of all, what Assange brought to America's awareness, I think was a good thing. The government cannot be spying on people unnecessarily like you hear today. It is going on even as we speak. You hear those secret surveillance on people. People, regular citizens, what is the crime they've committed to have those secret surveillances? So if Julius Assange brought such information to the air and the Congress had worked, I don't see why he shouldn't be allowed to come back.
Yeah.
It's like, I could say it's like a whistleblower, like most people, they praise, oh, so-and-so is a whistleblower, and they praise so many of them. I would say it should be put in the same class.
I appreciate you looking out for whistleblowers. Yeah, that's cool. So now the other one that I'm going to ask you about, you may have heard something called UBI, Universal Basic Income. Would you be supportive of UBI, or, how do you feel about the UBI?
Okay, yeah, so I think UBI would be a good thing. Like if you look at the modern monetary theory, where it states that a federal government, like a modern economies like US, they should be actually able to provide the services. They are currency issuers. For the state, it could be very challenging for the state, but for the federal government, the currency issuers, that means we cannot be there with unemployment. Why? We have so much work. Look at our schools. Look at our pipes. Pipes are broken. Look at the bridges. Just look at retrofitting schools. How much work would it take? Just working on the roads. So why would we have people unemployed? So universal basic income, basically, I think it should be there because we have, yeah.
Okay. One thing that you said interesting, one of the first words that you said was modern monetary theory. And that's
Right.
kind of like a term that's kind of like caught on. It is actually, there's whole entire subgenres of YouTube channels that are talking almost exclusively about modern monetary theory. Would you say that you subscribe to modern monetary theory or right as it's put out there? Okay.
Yes, I would, because basically it is that since modern economies like the US, their currency issue was they should be able to provide the services needed. They cannot be hiding the curtains of we can't afford, or we can't afford this program, we can't afford that program, when they actually issue the money. When you talk about, you hear they are talking about a deficit. When the government is spending so much money, we end up with a deficit. Basically, what that is, that deficit is about the money in circulation which has not yet been taxed. That is it. And remember, when we pay our taxes don't go to anything. Government collects taxes, those taxes are just destroyed. It's not the money which comes back to us.
Yeah.
They just collect a tax. So when there is a deficit, there is money which is not being taxed on, and you can ask, where is that money at? Most of the time, that money is in intergovernment agencies, could be in the VA programs, could be in Social Security. So some of the money is invested in stocks. Some of the money is, so those are monies which have not been taxed on and they count on deficit. Otherwise, a country like USA, there is no point even why we should be talking about deficits.
I know there's another show that's, there's a media group called KRTV Media. I know they have a show called Modern Monetary Donuts. There's another whole group of YouTubers that that probably would be very interested in talking to you more about monetary theory. That's not something I dive as deep into, but I know it's a fascinating topic, and I'm glad that as someone with a master's in finance, right, who's worked in the industry. Wow, that's very interesting. And I know that there's a whole genre of people. I'm gonna make that happen real soon. Let's move on to the next group of people that I work with, disabilities. Okay, just got back from an event today. Wow, that was crazy. Check out for that video. One of the guys fell. That video is coming out soon. But one of the things about disabilities right now, people with disabilities are allowed to be paid sub-minimum wage. And the thing is that if we look at minimum wage, it's like a subsistence wage. You're barely paying for apartment and, food and stuff. And people with disabilities have a hard... Would you support people with disabilities at least be able to get minimum wage? If there is some productivity issue, it could be made up with maybe like federal subsidies or something, right? But can you agree to support at least minimum wage for people with disabilities?
Oh, yes, of course, very much so. I would support, I was saying before, there is no point why people should not have the necessities, especially when they are living in the richest country on the planet. They are living in a country with a modern economy, a country which issues its own money, okay? So people with disabilities should also deserve to live a decent life. So
also, you have a minimum wage. You also have actually, that's one of your platforms, a strong minimum wage, right?
Right. Yeah. At least we need,
right?
In fact, we should even move away from a minimum wage, because sometimes even minimum wage cannot sustain people, especially if you live in New York. So we need at least a living wage. People are able to pay their bills. They're able they're able to go and rent at least a decent place. We are not talking about people living luxuries, but the basics should be able to afford the basics of life.
Okay. So there's another community that I'm going to ask about, the trans community. Okay.
Right.
And the thing is that we know that trans people, they have a really hard time. They may face like discrimination at work, right? That causes them to lose their jobs, things like that. And a lot of time they are our poorest people, right? Yeah. most discriminated against, and they may be trying to get into public housing, but then they find that, even though there's no law saying that you can discriminate against trans people, in fact, there's laws saying that you can't, right? They find themselves discriminated against anyways, and they may have problems accessing public services the way that other people can. What can you do to help assure, right, people that are denied services, right, even though there's no law, to try to help them gain equity?
Yeah, I think that is another area we have to put much emphasis on, because discrimination is illegal, regardless of people's sexual preferences.
Okay.
So those people, I think, should be protected.
So
And
here's
I
actually,
think,
I'm quite interested in your plan here, because does it include quotas? Because the thing is, let's suppose that, right? Let's suppose that 2% of the people in public housing are trans, but we could see that 10% of the people applying are trans, just making up the numbers, right? So do we have a responsibility to bring up that number back up to maybe closer to 10%? Or like, how would you, right? Maybe not, right? But how would you go about trying to address that?
okay, so the way we go about addressing that issue is whoever applies, whoever shows up, whoever comes, regardless of their color or their sex or their gender, they are entitled to be given the chance to housing. So discrimination shouldn't actually even come in play. If it happens, we have to protect those people, because the law is very clear. If somebody shows up, because now if we are talking about quotas, again, that may be a little bit tricky to
Yeah.
to enforce here. So we want to leave it, even if the whole building has transgenders, that's okay. They showed up, they applied, they got it, that's cool. We can also, no. It shouldn't be beyond this number. So we leave that open.
It sounds like
We
that's what
just
you're
have,
doing professionally, though, right? Yeah. Like if a certain percentage of the loans, right, looks like, right, for some reason discrimination is happening, right? That's what you literally do for your job, right? You say, the
right,
number of these loans, right, minorities are getting like charged higher interest rates. We need an
right.
explanation for this, right? And
Yes.
then you guys try to like bring it back to normal a little bit, or what? How do you guys address that?
About if we found discrimination.
Okay. And then
Okay.
reduce
So
taxes or something?
now
Okay.
in this situation here, even this one can be enforced, because if we are looking at a building of, let's say, 20 apartments. Okay, and we are looking at the applications. So you find so many applications being thrown out. I think the next question is gonna be you to find out why are those applications thrown out.
I like that. Yeah. So your experience right there is showing, right? Because
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the first time I heard that answer, and it would make
right.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
because the moment you look at them, you're gonna ask. Then eventually you may come to find out that these applications being thrown out, therefore they are thrown out because of people's sexual orientation. Then
Yeah.
that is a big problem right there.
I see. Okay, that's a good way to chase it down and find out, right? I like that answer right there. Actually, right now there's something we're working on called Unified Platform for 22. We're taking a bunch of candidates around the nation and trying to come up with common sense solutions that, right, maybe non-corporate solutions, right? No, definitely non-corporate solutions that we can agree on and just show that we can come to a understanding on these issues. And I think with your experience, you could make some significant contributions to that document. And I think really excited about that. Now, one almost done, right? There's two new additions to this particular round. In this round, we have the right to repair. I don't know if you've heard of right to repair, but there's there's a guy named Louis Rossman. He's pretty cool. New cell phones. What they have is, rather than, right, you suppose you drop it in water and like it loses the data. They say the data, and the phone company will say only our authorized repair center is allowed to touch your phone. Oh, guess what? We can't repair it. You got to buy a new phone, right? So right to would you support the right to for people to repair their own devices?
Oh yeah, of course I would, because that is where where the corporate America is headed. It is most of the time they are looking at to exploit every little thing they can, to extract every dollar they can from everyday people. Because if one paid for that phone, The phone is broken. Why would you tell those people, no, no, you cannot fix those phones? We want to fix them. We want to give you new phones. I would strongly support that because you know why? It's safe. Repairing an old phone is going to cost you way less than acquiring a new phone.
Absolutely.
Acquiring a new phone, if somebody is struggling to pay bills, you're telling them to get $400, the cheapest or three, to come and pay for that phone. And yet they would spend $40 to fix a phone. And if they cannot pay the $400 up front, you want to put them in a plan, a 2-year plan. They end up acquiring a phone and by paying almost $600 because if they're in a program, that installment payment carries the interest.
Sure. Hey, that was a great answer. That's I think that my partners will be very satisfied with those answers. Now I'm going to ask you some other questions, just in general about the race itself, just about your positions on some broader topics. And one of those that I'm going to ask you about is Medicare. Do you have any Medicare for all? Sometimes people call it that. What are your thoughts on the whole? Right, you actually did Medicare, investigations, auditing.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that is a very, very important topic. I mean, we need Medicare for all. And I can assure you, if people really give me their votes, I win the Senate race, I'm going to be strongly advocating for Medicare for all. You know why? Because our healthcare system we have today is not working. It's not working at all. It is, first of all, costing so much money. And secondly, there are so many people who cannot even afford to get on insurance. Obama made some improvement by bringing Medicare for all, but didn't go far enough. It didn't accommodate so many people were left out. And those who could not even buy the insurance, they were now to pay tax. Remember, you're struggling, you feel like you don't have any money left to be paying premium for insurance every month. If you don't do so, at the end of the year, you go to do your taxes. By law, you're supposed to pay a fine before you get your refund back. I strongly would support Medicare for all. First of all, it will save lives. 2, it is cheaper. Okay, because today I've come across, as I go around in the communities, I've come across people who are diabetic. Over 34 million Americans are diabetic. And the vast majority of them cannot afford the life-saving drug insulin. So what some of them would do, if they have a dose for 30 days, they make it go to 60 days. They take today, they skip tomorrow, or they take every day but half of the dose. You imagine, DJ, you live in the richest country on the planet and you have so many people in that category and some people don't address it. We have so many people in Washington who don't even want to talk about Medicare for all. They bring up issues there. They bring up issues. Oh, it's no good. Even some regular people say, no, but it's going to cause long waits. That is not true. Remember when we were just starting, we say this country has so much money to invest in the programs. If we see now for Medicare for all, okay, how do we improve? Of course, we have to provide programs to train. We could even help people to go do medicine, to help with the people doing nursing. There is nothing they can so it's going to cause lines. That is not very true. Another number one driver of bankruptcy. Number one driver of bankruptcy in USA is medical bills. Every year, almost 530,000 families declare bankrupt. Over 500. See, over 530,000 families in USA declare bankrupt every year due to medical bills. That's why if we bring up Medicare for all becomes a law, I'm telling you, it is a game changer. Because now you cannot imagine how many people struggle with that chronic pain. You imagine if younger kids are living with a grandma or a grandpa who is sickly all the time because they cannot afford the medication. Do you see the trauma which goes on those kids growing up when they are parents or grandparents every day in pain? They cannot afford the medication to feel better.
Okay. What about student debt?
Okay, student debt. That is another hot topic, which if I make it through, even I strongly support, strongly advocate for student debt relief. The reason is we go to school, people go to college, they borrow money to go to college. When they come out of college, what happens? Where do they go? They serve, they stay here to serve. So investing in younger people to go to school, to go to college is an investment in the future. Because now, DJ, look at it like this. If people come to a point where they say, you know what, enough with the student loan debts, and people stop borrowing money to go to college, people stop because they are tired. Those student loans can be a big, big problem. If we come to that point that people are no longer borrowing funds to go to get college education, what do you think can happen in this economy, this country and the economy? You
It's
end
not
up
good,
with no
yeah?
teachers, you end up with no lawyers, you end up with no accountants, you end up with almost, so that could be a real pandemic crisis. That's why we should, all of us, everyone should support free public college.
You know, that is something that I think would be good. One of the actual because of my work in other fields such as public housing and things like that, one of the things that we see as a well, one of the things I'm trying to address with the Unite platform, which it'll be up to y'all, right? Yeah, well, other candidates will come together and see what they can agree on. But the thing is that let's take a look at public housing, right? Who bought the Kips Bay apartments? It was going to be NYU. No, I think it was Cornell Pace. NYU is a very large property owner, and right, we look at the endowment of I think the overall student debt in the U.S. is about 1.4 trillion, but you take a look at Harvard's endowment, they have I think like 56 billion or something, like a ridiculous
Yeah,
amount.
lots,
A
right.
lot of the money that's supposed to be going for education, right, is spent buying real estate and profitable businesses and things like that. So, you know, the 1.4 trillion dollar debt is a lot. I'm thinking that we could really recover a lot of the money that's being used for, right, the colleges buying sprawling campuses and all this stuff. And right, why are we forcing our children to pay for these exorbitant, right, costs when people are learning how to do science really at home on YouTube? The savings that have been generated for the educational, right, due to technology have not been passed on, and the prices continue to skyrocket at just absurd rates to pay for administrators when we know the professors are like associate professors getting like minimum wage. The differential
Right.
between what the services that we're getting and the outcomes versus costs are just also concerning. But I do appreciate we do need, educated populace, and I could tell your heart's, in the progressive wing, and I appreciate that. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are very supportive of the things you say, and it makes sense. Yeah. So
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Colleges are becoming too expensive, and I think one of the reasons because there people have access to borrowing money. Because if you look way back, those colleges weren't that expensive. But because now those loans are available to people and want to attain the college education, they go for those loans. I think
yeah,
we need to reevaluate the education system. Besides
absolutely.
being, yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, some of these colleges, that is way too much money they are collecting from people. That should be evaluated to see exactly what's the point. And
yeah,
like you
absolutely.
mentioned, they have endowments which are so huge. Why
Yeah,
don't they even cut? Why don't they cut the cost of higher education?
yeah, they absolutely could and should, and they should pay off the debt, right? Rather than, right, putting the taxpayers on for 1.4 trillion. That's another bailout, right? And there's no
Right.
responsibility towards the spending. But I feel you, right? The students do want to be educated and do learn things, right? So that's a good position. I appreciate that, right? One of the other things that is important, right? Affordable housing, public housing. Now, actually, it's funny because in some of my program in the public housing, we call affordable housing a trap. Section 8, we said that's actually being used to actually so that, right, the terms, right, affordable housing actually in the housing activism sphere has a different meaning. But I think that you just mean like people should, right, normal people should be able to form a home, right? That's a great way to build equity for themselves. Financial advisors used to recommend that. So Tell me a little bit more about, affordable housing and your thoughts on that, because I know that that's an issue that you care about.
Okay, affordable housing, another very good topic. In the USA, there isn't a single county with enough affordable housing. In fact, the statistics say every 30 homes or apartments that become available, there are 100 people waiting to get in. So that tells you right there what's going on. I have been involved in so many activists where people are trying to fight for affordable housing. I have been much involved in on a good cause evictions. I was a couple of months back in Kingston. There were these people, some of them had disabilities, okay, and they were living in a building. Somebody came from maybe Manhattan, went as now, some people live in Manhattan, going down the Hudson, buying up property.
Yeah.
This building was accommodating, I think, about 8 people. Somebody came from Manhattan, bought up the building, the poor were thrown out. So now we're even questioning, and that was the time when the federal government had just sent money to the states, to the counties, about to help out with mortgages. So we are questioning, why didn't the county go and buy that building? The building was sold, I think, under $1 million. A storied building under $1 million. Billions had come to the state. Billions had gone to the counties. So you see how some people don't see this as a problem. There are so many people who live in their cars. I have been to those causes, those fights. I've heard stories about people sleeping in their cars. We need affordable housing. We can inject money into affordable housing. We have lots of land. We can change the zoning codes where we cannot be operating on zoning codes, which were brought up in the 60s when we are living today in this current century. We could change the zoning code. We have so much abandoned land, some pieces of land which are not being utilized. What we lack is the will and the politician to push these things through. And as you know, whenever it comes to everyday people, those things don't go far. But when it comes to the rich, like you mentioned earlier, how they bailed out the Wall Street. Wall Street was bailed out. Those were trillions of dollars. Supposing that money was injected into affordable housing, how much money did we spend on wars? Afghanistan. All that money, if is injected in affordable housing, but the politicians lack the will. They make a big talk, always talking. They do the minimum. I think it will take a drastic change involving all of us, activists, people to put their feet on the ground and say, you know what, this is what we want. And that we start with getting power. Vote people in offices who are gonna make a difference. Not people who are there to make it a career. Every year they are there. Nothing happens, but they keep going back.
That's true. So as in terms of people going back, that actually brings up another topic that I think that you are actually passionate about: term limits. So what's your, I know that there are some term limits that do exist, but some of them are quite long, especially people know about the one for president, right? But what's your idea for term limits?
I think members of Congress should have term limits.
Yeah.
You serve, if you are in the Senate, you serve 2 terms. You get out. If you are in the House, you go serve 3 terms. 6 years, you get out. Because all the talk which is going on today about our democracy, that by term limits, that makes sense with democracy. That is protecting our democracy. You know why? Because some of these people get in Washington, they become so rich, they get so much entrenched in the swamp, in the Washington establishment. Then they are getting money, that dark money from people sponsors, and then they get to be controlled by those giving them the money. And if they start to be controlled, then they are not serving the people who voted them in. You see, there is no democracy now. Democracy was you were voted into office to serve the people who voted you in there. But these ones with the money have now given you the money. You're no longer serving the people who voted you. That is a problem. That is a danger to our democracy. But with term limits, maybe you're not delivering 2 terms, even if you voted out, even if you had so much money to go in. Look at how much money these politicians spend. Really, it is just insane. Millions and millions. By setting the system to be like that, it is to keep us everyday people from running. Because you find most people cannot start even to think of running for office. So the system is being corrupted, and that is not democracy. Term limits probably can ensure the democracy we are talking about.
Okay. Term limits can help to an extent. Yeah, that I can see some reason for that. I can see reasons for both for and against. One thing is, just so you know, one of the unique positions that I hold is there's a lot of people who run for office and stuff like that, but sometimes behind the scene, there's staff that stay on for decades, right, controlling things behind the scenes, corporate campaign consultants. And just so you know, there's people like me out there that are like been activists in the game for a while that are like anti-corporate campaign consultants. One thing that we did was something called Rep My Block, is we actually took the voter data and we made it available, even though you couldn't get it through FOIA requests. We made this available data to all candidates running for office in New York City, so that they didn't have to hire corporate campaign consultants for sometimes charge thousands of dollars for this data, which is, you know, we compiled it for them and made it free for them to use. So, you know, it is good to have fresh faces, right? Because people that try to make careers out of it, sometimes they do become, that's a great concern. But if you want some help from people that have been going on for, like, you know, some of us decades in the game, right, fighting against these corporate campaign consultants, then we'll help you as we can, right? That there's also value there too. So, yeah, some of the senators have definitely been there way too long. Some of them are like barely, they're like 80. It's the oldest
Right.
set of senators like ever. They're all like 80 plus pushing. Dianne Feinstein can't even talk coherently, and now she's still in office, and they have to like excuse her from committees because she can't talk coherently because she's just too old.
Yeah, they become career politicians. So
Yeah,
what they care is lining up their pockets and their bank accounts.
Yeah, they're going
And
way too far with it.
that is a big danger to democracy.
Appreciate that, man. Hey, you're pretty cool. Now, how can people find out more about your campaign? You have a website, you got like social media, right? Where can people go to follow your campaign?
Oh yeah, sure. They can. Okay, my website is www.m as in Michael, another M, U, G as in George, U, L as in Lake, U, S, I, number 4.
Okay.
The
In the
word
comments right
Senate.
below this video, we'll make the link right there and in the description, so you guys can just go down to below and take a look. That's the website, okay?
Right, yes. Even now on Twitter, you could find me at Mugulusi, number 4, Senate.
Okay, that'll also be below, right? And
Yes. The moment they get on the website, anybody gets on the website, those are the social channels I have are listed on there.
Cool. So now that people know like where to get your stuff, right? What do they have to look forward to? Is there something coming up, right? What they're gonna go to the website, they're gonna be on the Twitter. What's coming up? You got any cool projects? Maybe a tour coming up, right? Event, anything?
Like right now, I'm organizing to start collecting signatures. I'm gonna need about 15,000.
Yeah.
So so what is coming up the month of March is gonna be quite hectic.
Okay, so if you want to help them, then the website or the Twitter is a great way to stay in contact with him. That should be provoking some cool, events to pop off. Yeah, he's gonna need some ballot petitions, so you might even get to meet him. Who knows? Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, or at least some of the staff.
Sure,
That's a
of
good time
course,
to get right when they need help. That's when a good time to meet these people and make good things happen. So, thank you so much. Any last messages you want to share with the viewers before it's time to go?
Yes. Thank you again for the opportunity to have me on. And to all our listeners, I mean, this is time to make a drastic change. Like I said earlier, we need to get in this if we want to get things done, if we want to make a difference. This is going to take everybody's effort.
I think you're a
If you like,
fascinating person to talk to, just with the Medicaid regulation background, also the modern monetary theory. I know there's definitely, I'm put you in contact with some producers right now. I'm sure that they definitely want to, delve around and see what's going on right there, because that's a unique set right there of skill set that you bring to the table. Thank you so much.
you too. Thank you so much, DJ, for having me on.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
You too. Let's talk soon.
It's a dark day in our nation when high-level authorities will seek to use every method to silence dissent. The truth must be told.
And if you want the truth, you need to check out independent media producers just like myself, DJ Elf7. You should subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notifications when I release a new video.
The truth of these
We are
words
on all
is
the major
beyond doubt.
platforms. That includes Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course YouTube. Unfortunately, we have definitely seen that these mainstream outlets will cave to corporate interests, so we encourage you to join our independently moderated communities of Reddit and Discord. We also encourage you to subscribe to us on BitChute and Dailymotion so you can see the content that YouTube doesn't want us to let you see. Hey, now it's time for the most important part of the video. That's right. It's time for us to tell you about the Taking Action Group. Do you need an activist? Or maybe there's no activists around willing to help you with your cause and you need to learn to become an activist. That's exactly why we're here. Every week we get up with people from across the nation, in fact even sometimes internationally, and we develop strategies and a game plan to address the issues that are affecting all of us. Every week myself from New York City and of course my co-host Lisa from Los Angeles provide a coast-to-coast perspective on what's going on in the country. If you want to donate to help out with expenses, travel, equipment, stuff like that, then I definitely appreciate it, and you can hit us off at Venmo or PayPal. Thanks a lot. Hey, by the way, we also have a merch store, so check it out. Oh my goodness, it seems like you've reached the end of the video, so make sure you check out some of our other videos. Make sure you subscribe. This is your last chance to do so thanks a lot. And looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please comment below if you have any questions or issues you'd like me to address. And if you're an activist, the time to make things happen is now.